You're listening to Pro Booth Talk, education and insights for photo booth company owners.
All right, welcome back to the show. Lap is here with me as always. We also have a guest host, Mr. Jeff Libby of MiHi in Denver. Jeff,
Hey.
why don't you introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Yeah, Jeff Libby, MiHi Entertainment. We're based in Denver, Colorado. We do a lot of brand activations and corporate events. Here in Denver, that's where we're headquartered. So we offer other products as well, AV production. We even do some event planning. And we also do events all around the country. So some of our biggest clients do national tours, and we like to support them. So I just celebrated our 10-year anniversary on September 17th.
Wow.
I can't believe I forgot that date. No, sorry, September 10th.
Congratulations.
So yeah, 10 years. Where MiHi's a teenager. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, congratulations. That's really great. We're just 1 year over that, but infinitely far behind you still. You guys are doing really great things, and you're certainly one of the models that we look at, and when we're doing new things, we are always looking at MiHi, and it's gone so far to a point where if I'm having issues that I'm letting bleed into my home life, and I'm discussing them with my wife, she's like, "Well, have you asked Jeff yet? Have you reached out to Glenn? What's MiHi say?" So you're definitely a part of my growing process in the direction that we go as a business ourselves. So I'm super flattered to have you in the studio with us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And if you ever need to call me, if you don't have my number, I'll give it to you later. But feel free. I love talking business. I nerd out all the time.
Yeah, I definitely have your number, and I definitely have Glenn's number as well.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned the kind of how you model it. And I have to say the same about you, Jason. I love the way you approach, you were just telling me before we started how you're preparing for busy season and you're auditing all of your equipment and, getting ready for hiring. And I took a little note about auditing the equipment in the warehouse. I think we're a little overdue for that, and I don't want to deal with it when we're super busy. So
it's part of those busy seasons and the troubleshooting, getting ahead of the troubleshooting before it comes up, I guess, because troubleshooting obviously is a pain point for any company. So we want to make sure all our software is up to date, everything's running smooth, make sure all our backup equipment, because sometimes, they pull those cords out because cords fail a lot, and they forget to mention that they replaced the sync cord or whatnot. So we need to go through all those backup kits and make sure they are full and ready for issues. How do you guys, on that same topic, how do you handle support with your team?
We have internal staff who are full-time plus, and they kind of alternate who's going to be tech support / event management for the day. But because we have events almost 24/7, it feels like we always have someone on. They also happen to be the people who prep the equipment and get it ready. And then also they receive the equipment when it comes back. And, every time we receive that equipment, we are checking our emergency kits for those cords and making sure they're there. And it's so redundant, but I always just look at it as like, this could be somebody's wedding and I don't want to screw it up. So yeah, we've got three staff plus a manager, and then they have a whole, 20-step process for troubleshooting, and even more for event management. Event management to us is making sure people are on time, making sure they send the right photos, so we can make sure that basically we want to keep an eye on the event to make sure it's going well, from a non-technical perspective, I guess, because it's very easy if the printer's not working to know that something's wrong. But if the photo quality is not up to par, maybe our staff on site isn't aware, but at least our internal team will be able to adjust it. So sending photos, making sure that the point of contact approves our setup and our output before we start running the event, just because, maybe it's something that maybe we all made a mistake on our end, and the client could be that last person to say, all right, this is good to go, or, hey, you missed something, and then we can fix it.
Right. Or maybe things aren't framed exactly how they want. And you mentioned the on-site staff and of course, like you mentioned, the printer, we all know that, but a lot of times one of the biggest things that we see specifically for like a wedding, sometimes there'll be a big crowd and we reframe for that. And sometimes, things are moving so fast, our on-site staff forgets to reframe for the one or two people. So that's some of the things that I can relate to that we are seeing as well in our own support.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think that, if you break it up into categories, it's timeliness and professionalism. It's the technical side of everything. It's the presentation, and then it's the output. So if they can get all of those right, then we've got a successful event.
I need to go back and write all that down.
You're recording this.
I think that might be an episode in itself. Your list there.
I've got some pretty thorough manuals too. Checklists, processes, expectations before the event, during the event, and after the event for both our ops tech support staff as well as our on-site staff. So happy to share any and all of it with you if you think it's beneficial. Again,
we're kind of building that out right now, so that'd be very beneficial to me to kind of compare and see. I'm sure there's a lot of places that we're missing.
Cool. Well, yeah, let's collaborate. I'm sure we're missing things too because we still don't have a 100% success rate. But I think we can get there one day.
Yeah, we're 100% successful. I don't know where you're dropping the
So Jeff, I know that your photo booth company, you guys do some really creative stuff. Like I would say you guys are like at a different level than a lot of like the cookie cutter, photo strips and stuff like that. Like what do you feel has been like one of the most challenging habits that you've had to like overcome moving from like a small company to the size that you are now?
Giving away my creative director position to someone who's not me was probably the hardest thing because of my passion for it. But I did give it to a crazy genius. So very similar to my thought process. And I'm jealous of his job, that's for sure. But it allows me to help run the business better. Every department really, I would say, is changed as we've grown because I step further and further away from the departments and I'm I guess I'm becoming more of a leader and less of a helper within each department. I'm now helping the people of those departments. So operations, for example, we use Slack for our communication, and when there's tech support issues, it's on a channel, and I leave that one open. That way I can see it, and if my team's struggling, then I'll go in and, review the information that's been given, and chances are, I'll know the answer like that because it's been 10 years of me doing this. So it's hard to pass the torch on, but I know that it would stunt the growth of the company if I were to try to do everything still.
Yeah, letting go is definitely a challenge I think a lot of people have, even in the lower levels of growth, and just letting go of things like events. Or I think a lot of people have a passion for selling their events, and have a really hard time of letting that go as well. I've never really been a salesperson, so that was one of the easiest things for me to let go of. But
yeah, I definitely struggle with that.
Yeah, I won't let anyone answer their phones.
I've always been so bad at following up, horrible at it. I actually just followed up 3 times, and I turned around a sale, which was amazing. But so it goes to show you how important it is. But I'm so bad at it normally that's why I don't like to sell. I love the action of selling. So I'm like, if you can get this person on the phone and ready to talk, get me in on the call. But I can't. Not that I can't. I know I can if I tried hard enough, but I don't want to set a reminder in my calendar to follow up with somebody or mark it in HubSpot or anything like that. I'm just I don't know. That's not for me. So that's kind of my weakness when it comes to sales, I think. So it made it easy to let go as well. I do miss those bigger invoices because I feel like I have the courage to charge more, and we usually get those ones. So it's small price to pay, I think.
Ability to kind of express that as well. And I guess I agree with you. If I'm on the phone with a client, my sales team is already in that point and they come in and they say, hey, can you jump on this call with us? They have some technical questions. I can really, and I think it probably the same for you. I am way more knowledgeable than my team in the aspects of the photo booth, so I can talk really intelligently about what they're trying to achieve and accomplish and make it make sense to the higher price points and whatnot. whereas people like Shannon are just way more personable. If I hear someone with the baby in the background, I'll just be quiet for a second so they can handle that. Whereas she will 5 minutes later know their birth dates and what they want for their birthday. She just immediately just has that personal touch that just is natural to her and is not to me at all. So
Totally. I feel it for sure. Mine's the follow-up though. So yeah, I think in order to be really good at something, you have to go all in, and I've just never been able to do it. So, and I'd probably make a baby cry even more if they saw me on screen.
Oh my gosh. So, I know you just recently had done a big thing. You overcame like a big thing, and you went on stage.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, like, was this like that? Can you share how that was? What that felt like, and what type of accomplishment you felt being able to do this, and share with our listeners like what exactly it was. I don't know if everybody. Yeah.
Oh man, I've been afraid of public speaking my whole life, and I was telling some friends that I have been a best man 3 times, and I've literally found a way out of the speeches each time.
Wow.
I'd drop out of classes in college if I knew, when you look at the syllabus day 1 or day 2 of the class, if there's a mandatory presentation, I'm out of there. I drop it. It's been beyond anxious and scared and nervous. Lack of courage, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but about a month ago, I started experiencing, I like to call emotional puberty, which is probably not the technical term, but I've always wanted to do public speaking, and so I had an opportunity and randomly just said, yeah, let's do it. I'm pretty sure I'm not afraid anymore. And I didn't practice. I didn't, do all these strategies. It's just the fear was gone. And the fear was the one thing that was, it was like my shackles. It wasn't about not knowing how to do it. It wasn't about, not knowing those 10 tips that they give you. It was a fear that was a wall. So the feeling of overcoming that, my one word has been freedom. I feel free, free from that fear. And I'm really excited to overcome the rest of my fears, because I think kind of understand how I did it, which is weird, but it's like lots of reflection and just kind of working on myself has helped me with that. So yeah, I think the next thing is getting on stage and doing it more and more and more, and just like seeing where it can take me, because I've always felt that public speaking can take you all kinds of places, and I would just love to get paid to travel. I think that would be so amazing. And so many people get paid to travel. So that's kind of my goal out of it now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. That's really encouraging, because I feel in my age, and I don't know how close we are in age, but I feel like I've kind of become very complacent with my fears and just accepted them and known that this is my life. So I love seeing you tackle those. That's really great. And I just had a similar, I don't want to say a similar situation, because speaking in front of a crowd and being on a panel is very different. But as I've mentioned a few times, I am the past president of the Vegas Wedding Chamber, which that position comes with a lot of speaking in front of people at meetings and things like that. But when everyone kind of came to me and said, "Hey, I think you'll be good for this role. Will you consider running?" That was kind of my only caveat, was like, who's going to be the speaker for me? Because I don't do that. Like, if I'm good with structure and organizing and data, and I can take that role and do that for you, and I can act as a leader, but I'm not going up on stage. Like the most in the 2 years I served as the president, the most I ever did was pull names out of a bucket for raffles. Like Jeff Libby, is Jeff Libby still here? Did he leave already? And that was it. So it was a big step for me to just be on this panel, and there was some pretty in my world, a big name that does a lot of international speaking and whatnot that was on the panel with me. So that was a little bit intimidating. And I took a completely separate approach from you. I had questions like almost memorized, like I was reciting them every day. I was driving, reciting them. I was reading over them and reciting them in my when I was going to bed each night. So I'm very jealous and I'm impressed that you were able to just say, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to do it.
Thank you. I mean, I practiced a lot, but there's being able to do it and all of the tips and tricks and, being able to flow and whatever comes with experience. But like, there's something else there, which is like, what's holding you back from even doing it, And so those are two different things in my eyes. I think you can practice speaking and get better over time. But if you're too afraid to do it, which I couldn't even look in the mirror and recite something in my own room, my throat would close up. I would get all sweaty and anxious and I would not do it. Like, there is something there. And that's that thing that was just, it went out the door. I got up there. I fumbled a few times. I really did. Like my confidence monitors didn't have my information on it. I had the guy before me slides. And so like some things I like, when I was practicing and writing my presentation, I was like, this doesn't flow well. This isn't how I would say it, but I didn't know how to reframe it into how I would say it. And I was like, whatever, I've got confidence monitors. I'll read those sections and then those monitors fail. So I was like, I then dropped my papers because I had 3 papers. That was like my script. And, I have my microphone in my hand. I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like whispering that and you could hear it clear as day. It's so funny. But like, normally you would be mortified. I think people would be mortified by that. I laughed it off, I was like, sorry guys, this is my first time up here. Like, I'm still learning, but I'm up here. And they gave me a round of applause and it was great. So, your own fears and anxieties really limit you so much. And one thing I've said my whole life is like, well, not my whole life, but ever since I've been an adult, the only thing stopping you is you. And I know that's so cliche, but I live that life every day. And, I always overcome things. I overcome my fear of flying last year, fear of speaking this year. I don't even know what my other fears are, but if they're just personality traits that I don't like about myself, those will soon be gone too. So yeah, it's really cool and interesting. It's a great journey.
It's really awesome. I know one of the questions that we had for you was like, if you feel like there's a common belief or there's a common practice in our industry that you feel photo booth providers do or have in place that like holds them back. Like, do you have any advice for them that something that they do that holds them back from success in our industry?
I would probably say maybe, well, definitely limiting beliefs. I'll give you an example for me. 5 years ago, I think now, I threw my first showcase and it was just brought a bunch of vendors into a venue that I got. But before that, I was like, I heard another guy who had done it in our industry, and I was just blown away by it. I was like, we can't do that. Like, it's too expensive. Or, I had all these reasons why we couldn't, even though none of those reasons were even good reasons. I just felt like we couldn't. So I gave it reasons why. I gave myself a reason to be right as to the fact that we couldn't do it, I guess. And then one day I just said, you know what if we could do it? What would that look like? And then that afternoon, it was a Sunday afternoon, I built out a plan. I emailed some vendors. By the end of Monday, I had a rough outline of what we were going to do. I had a venue and I had catering as well. So that was literally 24 hours later, we had our first, we were in motion for our first showcase of, I think 70 people showed up. It was really small. But yeah, just thinking bigger, I think is huge, and don't step on your own toes for sure. That's like the first thing. And then the second thing is a lot of people, they set their standard as high as everyone else. So what ends up happening is they just end up like replicating other people's ideas. And I do believe that innovation comes from replication, but you kind of have to set your standards higher than what everyone else is doing. So if you see something really cool on social media, don't say to yourself, oh, I want to do that. Say to yourself, I can do that better, and then see where better takes you. And that's how we've become so innovative, is we like to look at other people. And I always say I'm fiercely competitive, but I'm competitive to innovate, and I'm competitive to move our industry forward. I'm competitive with myself, but I'm also competitive with you guys. If you have a great idea, I'm going to try to do it better, and then I'm going to share it with you, because I believe in friendly competition. So yeah, I would say those are kind of my two answers. If hopefully I was clear on that.
Yeah, very clear. So
I want to ask you, so all the innovation that you do is a lot of R&D. Like, what's the most expensive investment that you've made that you're like, like the most expensive mistake that you've had, and like what have you done with it since?
Oh man. If you take away the word mistake, I have a really good answer. And I'm going to answer that. This is not a mistake, to be very clear, everybody. I hired 2 creative people, and it was very, very new thing. We didn't even have a name for the department. I called them special ops because we have our ops team and then we have our special ops team, and they had 0 KPIs. They just sat in a dark room and made cool things. And it took about 3 months before we actually started being able to apply those cool things. To me, it kind of felt like a new toy. I had 2 employees that played in a dark room and made things look cool, but none of them we could take to market. But eventually we started to learn how to work together better. And I brought in the business side of everything. They brought in the creative side of everything, and we started building products. And so that's expensive, obviously, because those are salaries and benefits and all that other stuff, plus all the miscellaneous equipment and software licenses that they wanted, the subscriptions, all of that. So I'd say that department is now our creative department, and they do creative client work as a professional service. They also create products for us and new workflows and things like that. But at least 50% of their time, we're not sure if anything's going to come of it or not. But as long as they show me the cool stuff they're doing, I'm okay with it because it's fun.
Yeah, R&D seems to always be part of the most expensive because you're right. A lot of it just ends up in the garbage or, cutting room floor, or sometimes you love something so much and you put it together and you showcase it somewhere and it just doesn't hit. People aren't impressed with it, and you're like, all right, well, I was really excited about that and I spent a lot of money and a lot of time designing it, and maybe I'll try it again in a couple of years. Maybe everyone else isn't ready for it yet.
Exactly.
I know there's some people that don't know what R&D is. R&D is research and development, where you're learning and creating new experiences. So you're trying new software, hardware. For anybody who doesn't know what R&D is.
Yeah, you're curious, you're interested, you're tinkering. You're kind of approaching it without fear and with curiosity. Yeah. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It makes me feel like a kid again when I can really get sucked into something like that.
Yeah.
And Jeff, on that same note that Lap just mentioned about R&D, I think a lot of people have never heard KPI before, which, to clarify, I guess, is just performance indicators, like targets people need to meet to justify their positions. And when you're creating new positions, those kind of indicators of those, you don't really have anything to measure against. At least that's my understanding of KPI.
Yeah. Measurable goals, basically, that you can keep track of.
So you've been doing those showcases for several years now, right? You mentioned that you started 5 years ago. Are you doing them annually? And what have you seen in terms of like your growth and success rate after starting to do those showcases? I know Jason did a showcase in Vegas as well.
Yeah, Jason's was awesome. Have you done another one yet?
So Jeff mentioned there was someone that he had saw do a showcase, and it inspired him to do his own. And I've got the same story, except for Jeff was the person that I saw do a showcase, and it inspired me to do my own. And yeah, Jeff and a couple members of his team came down to support our showcase, and he said it was awesome. I feel like we failed in some areas, but I think that's kind of part of being a business owner, is seeing all your faults. But yeah,
So I've done 5 so far, and my first one there was like 0 decor, maybe a few random things on a table. When it came to decor, there was a DJ. Then there were probably like 8 photo booths, different things. We had a snow globe outside. We had different photo booths, and it was just a showcase at that point. And the second year was kind of the same. It was a little bit bigger. We got a bigger venue. We had about 120 people, and a week after COVID hit. So we saw probably 0 return from that event, which was really unfortunate. And then we decided after COVID that we wanted to do it again. And during COVID, I worked harder than I ever have in my life. I educated myself. I had this list of, like, it's so funny to say this. I had this list that was like, if we had all the time in the world, what would we do? And I built this list for years before COVID hit, and I called it the end of the world list. And so I pulled that list out during COVID and started working on it. And so that's why I was so busy, because it was basically my COVID list. And so we built our national brand. I educated myself so much more on marketing and, just all of the parts of the business that I felt like I was really weak at. Or I could do better at. And so, COVID's over, and I decided I wanted to approach my showcase a little differently. And I said, we need to make this not a showcase about us, but a party for our vendors. And it was just that simple shift in thought that, one thing led to another, essentially. From there, we decided to brand it, and we called it Feel Famous. Before that, it was just MiHi Showcase. And Feel Famous had a name, it had a label, it had a brand. Year one, people were really excited. The end of year one, when it was over, there was so much FOMO that year two, there were way too many people. There was like 650 people, and we tried to cap it at 400, but we just couldn't. We shut down Broadway in Denver. There was people waiting in line to get into this event, and then so successful. And then this year we just did another one, and it was great too. So we started sending out invitations to some of our national planners, and getting some people from around the country to come and visit. Jason, did you come this year? I forgot.
Yeah. So last year it was me and my team that came, and this year collectively a handful of people that we met on the cruise. We all got on our Airbnb together. So like me and Monica and Mitch and Larry, I think Anna was there. So a group of us all kind of got an Airbnb together and went as a group. And my wife came out this year as well. So
yeah,
definitely a lot of growth between the two years.
Oh, the decor this year was wild. I thought
insane.
The entertainment was so fun. My favorite was last year, though. I don't know why. That was just my favorite one.
I really dug the levels last year, and I know that makes it really difficult. But last year he had a building with 7 levels, but each level was only I don't know, 1,500 square feet or something. So essentially he had a different theme on every level of this building. So as you went up these ramps or stairs, kind of went up in a circular motion. Each floor had a unique theme, and it was really a huge undertaking, and it was really awesome.
Yeah, it was a 7 levels of fame, and it was basically a parking garage is what I like to call it. But yeah, you'd go from one level to the next, and obviously the theme is Feel Famous, and the reason why that's our theme is because we want people to feel special. We want them to have a great time. And so if we kind of make our event about them and having a good time, and not necessarily about another theme, then I feel like we can be more successful in doing that. Especially with nowadays, social media is not nowadays, it's been so long, but social media is so important. Everybody wants those likes, and they want to feel famous. That's social validation, I guess. So really tied in very well, I thought, last year. It was just the perfect Feel Famous event because of the theme that we had. And the venue I loved it. It was really grimy, but it worked. The day of, we had a demolition wall break into the wall and just destroy the wall. That was so cool.
Not planned. Not planned.
Not planned.
You say it like it was part of your activation. So as we were driving up to this, we were like, oh my God, what happened to that building right there? Half the wall is gone. And then we're like, oh, this is the location. this is where we're going. So we came in and talked to Jeff. He's like, that happened today, and we had to work around it. We had to just figure out a way to accommodate where this wrecking ball knocked a hole in the wall.
Yeah, there were bricks and building debris on our 360 platform and stuff. It was nuts.
A crazy undertaking, and then all of that to happen too. That's so wild. But that's great to hear that you braved it, because that's a daunting concept to even dream up and execute. That's amazing. In 5 years.
I mean, we have a good team. It would be very daunting for one person, but my focus was my personal focus was making sure we stayed on brand and providing any type of creative input to any of the ideas that were already flowing. How can I take this one step further? But also I looked at every single detail of the event and tried to ask myself, is this making somebody feel famous? And I've done it a few times, but not enough to be an expert. So I know I failed in so many places, but at the same time, I feel like we did such a great job in other places. I had an event planner that helped with all the logistics. We hired, or people sponsored, but every event vendor that you can imagine was there, either paid or sponsored. So yeah, it was a full-fledged event. It was fun.
And if I could offer one piece of advice to anyone out there listening that wants to do their own showcase, just because Jeff just mentioned an event planner, that was one of the biggest takeaways for me. And it makes sense. Like when you see people doing weddings and stuff, you're always thinking like they need to get an event planner, like they don't know what they're doing. And it was the same thing. Like I felt like I knew all these vendors and we could kind of do it all ourselves. But we also are really good friends with an event planner, Brittany, who was on a few episodes ago. Brittany Griefer, or with Symphony Weddings, and I approached her to do my showcase, and just watching her do the thing that she does made it so much easier, and took care of issues that I didn't know were going to come up with like load-in issues and catering issues. And we were going to have an ice cream vendor there that ghosted us day of, and I was like, all right, panicking, what are we gonna do? Let's shuffle some things around. And her response was like, do your photo booths. I've got the ice cream. I'll take care of everything. That's why I'm here. And she did. And we had a new ice cream person. So definitely, hopefully you're working with some planners already, but find a planner that you can work with, because logistically, like you're just a part of what's going on with events, and you likely don't have the understanding of how large scale event production is, and find someone that does.
And I hate timelines. That's the worst. Especially building them.
So for all the cool stuff that you do, Jeff, is there any like secret services that you offer to your clients that you can share with us?
No, but I can share all kinds of things. I'm an open book about everything. What do we do? I mean, we're doing some really cool AI stuff. We were doing AI before it became like part of the masses. But we're building it into our marketing now, and our clients' marketing, specifically for trade shows. That's been our big focus this year, is how can we offer our products and make new products that are specific to trade shows. So we're doing these AI quizzes, these personality quizzes that can kind of help qualify a lead, which is amazing. We created the platform, the experience, the idea, like we created it all from scratch. We have these things called pose flashcards that I invented. She's 9 years ago now. Just prompts, but the way we use them is fun and unique. And everyone has used the photo booth, but they haven't used it our way unless they've worked with us before. And they tell us that every time too. What else do we offer that's, I don't know, off the top of my head. Had you asked me like days ago, I could have written a big old list for you, but just go on our website.
I know that you guys were kind of on the forefront of AI, and it was a fun journey on the outside, just watching, because you guys were constantly posting photos of your new achievements and where you were at. So it was really fun to watch your journey. And we were completely, like, we were, I'd say, very late to the AI game. We wanted to kind of dabble in and get ahead of it, but then we started seeing people like you and a few other people that were actively moving it forward, and we just kind of decided to take the back seat and said we'll let them figure it out, and we'll ride their coattails and use their softwares and things like that. But watching you guys figure it out was really fun.
It sounded like it was a lot of fun figuring it out. My creative team did it. I just got with them on ideas and, kept motivating them. And they love AI more than I do, which is weird for me to say because I love it so much. But yeah, it's that investment we talked about, Lap, those people. Definitely not a mistake.
Yeah.
So for those companies out there that are maybe like a 2 or 3 person op that want to kind of push things to the next level, certainly from where they're at now and where you're at now is monumental, but just pushing past the level that they're at now, what kind of advice can you give?
You know all the reasons why you can't move forward. Those aren't reasons why you can't. Those are the reasons that you're kind of using to slow yourself down. So look at those problems that you have and address them one at a time, and don't stop focusing on them until they're gone. When that happens, your company is going to naturally grow. I've been a risk taker for so long, and I think because of my little COVID story of just being able to work so hard during COVID, it was like the best thing that could have happened to my business. And, because of that, I felt fearless. I was like, if I can thrive in COVID, then I can't fail. This year has been one of my hardest years though, because I told myself last year that I've never not achieved a sales goal. So I'm clearly not making them high enough. So this year I went balls to the wall with it. But my biggest mistake was I built my budget so close to my sales goal number that I didn't have much room for error. So, the first 7 months of the year, I've been running in the red. Fortunately, I have, my own personal money that I knew I would bankroll it if I needed to. That was really stressful. So I would say be fearless, but also put some checks and balances into place. Maybe give yourself a little more wiggle room to fail. Failing it's not black and white. You don't fail overnight and you don't succeed in one day. That. You can kind of see that path and you can adjust every single day. So set a big goal. And if you don't feel like you're achieving that goal as you're maybe halfway toward that date, or even a quarter of the way, maybe you can adjust that goal or seek some help to achieve that goal. But if you never set your goals high enough, then you're selling yourself short. And what's the point?
Yeah, I really appreciate hearing all of that stuff, even where we're at in our journey, because there's a lot of times where we're pushing the limits, and there's been months this year that we've been in the red, and we obviously those are our pain points, and we're wondering, if that's an us issue. So I'm glad to hear that other people are having those same struggles that we are. And, I'm always the same way. That's why we have big months, and that's why we save, because we're going to have the lower months, and we have to spend money to move forward, and we have to innovate. But still, when you have those months that are in the red, you wonder, if you're the only one. So it's nice to hear that we're not the only ones.
Yeah, and when that's 7 months in a row, it's even more. It's a lot of emotional turmoil, but it allowed me to, I guess when I'm uncomfortable is when I really take action. So it allowed me to understand my business a lot better from a financial perspective. Just make so much money, I don't care. That's how it's always been. And this year it was not like that. So I had to care. I had to look at where my money was going. And if one year we're not extremely successful financially, that's okay, because that one year allowed us to have so much knowledge that we can apply for the rest of the years moving forward.
So one question I want to ask pretty much everyone that has found some level of success in this company or this industry, because Lap and I recently had an episode on props and it turned into this massive controversy. I've got to know where are you on props, Jeff?
So where I am personally is I hate props. I really hate props. But that's why I have those post flashcards, because you don't need props with PFCs. Our company uses them because people want them. And, we're not in business for me. We're in business for our clients. But yeah, I should get a shirt that says F props, because that's how I feel about that.
We all need to have one at PBX next year.
I love
F
it.
props.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the same spot. Like with the flashcards, we don't have anything like that. That's a really great idea. I'm glad to hear that you do. But that's how we always feel. Like if somebody's posing, like show me a photo with props, and I could show you a million photos that are better without props. Like if you take the props away and people start to pose, they start to hug each other, they start to interact with the camera and with each other, and it's just much better photos.
Yeah. But some people, they're like, I want the props so bad. So, they don't see the props as often as we see the props. So It's a novelty for sure. But yeah, you can be classier than props, I think. I can talk so much trash about props right now, but I don't want to do that.
I have one question for you, Jeff. Being that you've been in the industry for so long, like if you could go back in time and like visit your old you, like is there any advice that you would have for the you of like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 years ago? Like some piece of knowledge.
I love that question.
Like what would you have done different? What would you have told the old Jeff of like 5 years?
I would say, don't be so hard on yourself. I always pushed, and my business was great. Like, it's always been great. Even this year with the financial struggles, it's great. But I sacrificed a lot of my own self for it. And it was because I had this, like, the more time I put into it, the more success I saw. And it was like addicting is kind of what it was. And so yeah, that my answer is to just don't be so hard on yourself. But I want to say more about that. I had this epiphany the other day because I was talking to another business owner, but it wasn't in this industry. And they've had a business for 3 years and it's just so unsuccessful. And I just thought of like how much courage they have to keep pushing because it's something that they love, Like with me, like the moment I started this business, it started, the more time I put into it, the more success I saw. I didn't spin my wheels because it was something I was passionate about. Like I love it, don't get me wrong, but I never had to spin my wheels. Like the more time I put in, the more success I saw. And so, people from the outside that talk to me are like, oh, you have so much courage to start your own business and this and that. And didn't take any courage at all. Didn't take any courage. I just lucked out. So appreciate being lucky too. And you're lucky.
Recognize that. Don't confuse luck with skill sometimes, because I think we saw that with a lot during the pandemic. A lot of people like directly following it. I would talk to them and they would tell me how successful they are and how much better they're doing right now. And I would have to remind them, like, hey man, we're all doing better. Like this is like a post-COVID thing. Like don't count your eggs yet, because this is going to bounce back. This is going to slow down. So, be careful with your scaling your growth, because like if you're successful, that's one thing. But if we're all successful, like it's not you. It's yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so with the growth and with your recommendation, with your trials and errors and things that you've failed at, if you're in a position again starting over and you're a one-man op, I guess not one man, you obviously the first people we hire are people to operate the booths for us and host and whatnot, but outside of just booth operators, who would be the first person you would hire to join your team? What role would that person have?
So do I have today's energy or 10 years ago energy if I'm going to start over? That's the main
I'm
question.
going to say 10 years ago energy.
Okay, then we can talk about this, but I could not start this business over with this energy. I would say salesperson for sure. It's a lot easier to stay motivated when you have contracts that you have to fulfill than if you're just not seeing that money coming in, and you can just kind of settle. And I'm not saying that that's what happened to me, because like I said, like it just worked out so well for me, whatever I ended up doing. But I think reflecting and looking back, like I may have given up if it didn't work so well. And the very first thing to show success is sales coming in. So I would want to make sure that I had a really strong sales team. And if that meant I was selling and that person was selling, great. But to ensure success, I would have very first thing would be a sales team. As we grow, I think that the operational side of it is more important, because I guess the focus on operations becomes more important, not the department itself. I think they're all very important, but one person can't do it all. And the one person who did do it all when you're small is you, the person who cares the most about it. If you don't care so much about, if your employees don't care so much about selling, then they're not going to sell as much, but they're still going to sell. But if you have a team of operations people or one person that just doesn't care that much, like they're going to fail the events, and then you're going to have to give that money back. And, I think the shift becomes operations after you get to a certain point. But the very first thing is just getting those contracts in the door and building your business.
I agree. And I feel like in our industry, a lot of people overlook the sales aspect of it. Like everybody focuses on the gear, the software, the hardware, not a lot of focus or emphasis on sales. And a lot of single operators don't have a sales background. So I think that,
especially when it comes to budget, everyone will budget software and equipment and stuff, but very few people are coming into the industry and with the marketing budget. and it's just as important as your equipment. I mean, we see a lot of people that say they've never spent money on marketing, and that's fine, but that may be your superpower that everyone doesn't have. So
we just started spending money on marketing a few years ago, and I don't know if marketing is giving us the ROI that you'd think it would. Love to go back and just see how we've grown without marketing and see if it's somehow exponentially gotten bigger because of it, or if we should have just let it naturally happen. Lots of sales, lots of our SEO is something that just kind of happened organically over time, but we didn't put dollars into it. I'd say the most that we put money into before we started intentional marketing was just sponsoring events, sponsoring the right events. That takes operational hours, takes labor, it takes media. So it's dollars. That should be coming out of your marketing budget for sure.
Yeah, my emphasis when I started was strictly sales. So it was, but I have a heavy background in sales, like 18, 20 years of sales background. So that benefited me tremendously. I think I was able to grow because of my sales background. And I don't think a lot of owners have that to their advantage. So if you don't have a sales background, guys, like you really should. YouTube is such a resource to all of us that we didn't have 10 years ago. I mean, go on YouTube. There's a lot of free, there's a lot of speakers on there that will give you like free advice on like sales pitches and like approaches and like how to overcome things. Like I can't stress enough that really, you can have amazing product, you can have amazing team, but if you can't convey that to your clientele, you're not going to close that sale. There's someone else that has a better sales team that will close it. They might not be as good as you. They might not deliver as well. But if they have that sales team or that sales pitch that wins that client, you're going to lose to them. I don't mean to be, negative about it, but I'm saying like a lot of this industry does need to focus on the sales portion of what we do. We're too focused on the output. We're too focused on hardware, software. We're not focusing on like conveying the value of what we bring.
Well, I think that's, one of the main reasons why white labeling is so prevalent is because the people who sell
do it better.
Are getting everyone else who can't sell to help us.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah.
So I know because I do some white labeling for you that you've grown into that. Were you always doing white labeling, or is that something that you've kind of grown into in more recent years? I think we started doing jobs for you probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
I mean, so I guess before COVID, we had a small national presence and only for like a year. But before that, we would white label here in town sometimes because we just didn't have the bandwidth, and the way I looked at it was I do not want to say no to any clients. So any corporate clients rather, because if I say no to one event, is it just one event that I'm saying no to, or am I saying no to multiple events a year, every year, forever? And I guess for me, white labeling has always been like that, but we started doing white labeling events for other companies before we started, hiring to white label. And I would take all those too, because the way I looked at it was, who knows what type of other events this company could have in town, and how can I learn and grow from that as well? What if they have really good operational procedures that they make me follow that are better than the procedures I have? I'm going to take those ideas and use them. So I've never signed a contract that said do not take our operational ideas. So if I did, maybe I probably wouldn't do that event. But yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's a great way to learn more and to grow more. And we still do white label events here in town for other companies. Like, I think it's great. We do them for companies around the country, but we also do them for companies here that overbooked, and even for other types of companies like planners or DJs or whatever. I love white label events. I just think they're so great because I don't have to sell them.
Yeah, and that's the side of white labeling that we're on. We do quite a bit of white labeling for other companies, whether it be venues or DJs or photographers, but also national companies that are marketing actively in Las Vegas. So there's a handful of, there's a company in New York, a company in Denver, a company in Texas. There's a few companies that actively market here and use us quite a bit. But as far as outsourcing side of white labeling, we don't we dabble a little bit, like if there's a client that we already have that's going to do a job in say Texas, if it's a big enough job, we'll just travel. But if it's something small that we don't want to lose their business over, then we'll reach out and find someone that, locally that we can know and trust. And we keep kind of bouncing back to PBX, but again, that's one of those things, like you've got to go to PBX, you've got to meet people. It's one thing to just post to Facebook and say who is in this area that can white label, but you really want to give those jobs to people that you know have the same business structure and values and quality that you do, and someone that you can have a drink with and get along with, because even if someone is really great at what they do, if you don't get along with them, it's not going to be a good mix. And like both of you guys, Lap and Jeff, I met both of you guys at PBX for the first time. I'm sure I saw each of you on Facebook in some capacity, but I had a little shindig up in my room one year, and Jeff stumbled in there, and the rest was history. At least you stumbled out.
I stumble a lot in Vegas.
So, I mean, get to PBX or whatever events are going on with your industry peers and meet people. Like, relationships are so important.
Yeah.
I think white labeling is really awesome. What you were mentioning of like someone who might have like a better system or workflow, creativity. Like my company has grown tremendous. Like before white labeling became like a thing, I feel like there was not even a word for it back then. But like we were able to just see like other companies, how they function, how they add their own creativity or twist. Like you could like and this is something that I know is a fact for me. Like I'm known for being like technically skilled, but like on the creative side, I lack that side in the business, and creativity is like really the moneymaker in our industry. And when I started white labeling for other companies, I really got to see that like in my face, like realizing that the creativity side is like, that is the bulk of like the challenge of what we do. So like you can be an amazing provider. And what you're saying earlier, like there's companies that are selling and then they're white labeling to other companies because they can't. So another concept is like, if they don't have the creativity, because I don't have that creativity. I have the systems in place. I understand the workflows, but I don't have like a creative team like you. So I can't see outside of my own limited viewpoint. So white labeling has really opened up my eyes to like how crazy creative some companies are. Like I know I keep bringing up Min. I think he's he's a genius with creativity. Like the stuff that he puts out, I'm like, and I'm having these conversations when he's like cooking up these ideas, and I'm thinking, where did you even pull that idea from? And it really does put in perspective like the different angles of our industry. When you say photo booth, there's just so much more than just a photo booth.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, like you said, and my comment earlier was really about the imbalance of the strengths and weaknesses. Like a person who's hiring another company to operate their events for them, they don't have the operational capacity that they have when it comes to sales. They can sell better than they can execute. Because if they could execute as well as they could sell, then they could be executing out of state as well. That's simple. Or whatever they're doing. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And then creative is a different department all of its own. Yeah. Like if you can sell and you can operate, but you're not creative, then you have two of the three, I guess.
Which makes white labeling a great partnership, because then you're able to partner with other companies. They have something you need, you have something they need. It's just a great a mix of.
Yeah, it's like a planner for a party. It takes a village. You have to hire all the vendors, and maybe you might see yourself as a photo booth company, but if you're doing the sale and doing the creative, you're kind of a creative agency at that point, and the company you hire is the photo booth company. That's kind of how we like to look at it.
I think that's all. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I think that probably wraps things up. We're coming up on the hour mark here. Was there anything else you want to talk about that we maybe didn't mention? Anything you want to promote? Any new places you're going, things you're doing?
I just wanted to talk to you guys. It's been a while, so it's great to do that.
Thanks, Jeff.
I only only
No.
met you recently at the cruise, and I've known of you for many, many years, and I didn't even get to chat with you very long, Jeff.
Yeah, I was chilling so hard, and
Chilling
like
so
when I
hard.
go on vacation, it's so different than everyone else. Like everyone likes to do things on vacation, and I just want to like lay there like a beached whale. Like that's how I want to live my vacations. So I was kind of always off to the side so I could be in the quiet and but you know, I wasn't antisocial. I was just on kind of chilling on my own. So,
Yeah,
but we've chatted a
you're
lot before meeting in person.
certainly. Certainly. So, of course, next time you come into town, we almost ended up in Denver for a concert, but tickets were too much, so we are going to Texas. But I was looking forward
Which
to
one?
Suicidal Tendencies, Pantera, and Metallica.
Oh, sweet. They're
Metallica.
where are they? Down in Colorado Springs, I think.
Well, they're playing in Denver,
Oh,
but
they
it's
are.
a 2-day show, and the pre-sale we're only selling 2-day tickets, and I'm only I don't even know who the other lineup is for the other day, and I'm only interested in that lineup, so I didn't want to. I think the bottom line tickets were like $700 for the 2 days, and I just didn't want to spend that, so we ended up going to I think it's Houston, wherever Jason Cage is. Houston or Dallas. I think it's Houston. So the show there is only a 1-day show with that lineup, and the tickets were a lot more reasonable. So
Nice.
gonna go catch it there.
Well, I might be in your neck of the woods for IMEX. I know my team's going, but I don't know if I'm going to go or not. So,
Well, reach out, man. I'd love to see you.
yeah, definitely.
So-
We'll be there for sure. If you stop by, you'll see our robot jamming around.
I'm sure we'll at least walk the floor. I don't know if we have any jobs there or not, and we're certainly not presenting. I'm not sure if we have jobs, but I typically go walk the floor either way.
Yeah, I did the first day. It was so overwhelming. It was awesome. It's so big. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Thanks for coming on. It was great having a conversation. It's one of the easiest conversations we've
Yeah.
had. You can just talk forever.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, great chatting. And if you guys ever want to bring me on for a specific topic, let me know and I'll do some research or something. Pretend I
Cool.
know what I'm talking about.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
See you guys.
To keep the conversation going, join our Facebook group, Pro Booth Talk Community. If you enjoyed this podcast, consider showing your support by subscribing, liking, reviewing, or sharing this topic with someone in the industry.